there. I'm Laura Ferri, and welcome to the My Inner Struggle podcast. I'm here talking everything personal growth, lifestyle, and business. We are on episode 30 today, which is pretty cool. And I have Ben and Heather Davey here with me from Benny's Bodega here in Sussex County. Hey, guys.
How are you? Thanks for having us on.
Thank you for being here. I know, you're pretty popular around the county. I think you guys are growing and doing great things.
Thank you.
Do you want to explain a little bit about yourselves and what it is that you're doing?
Sure. So I am, I guess, a self-described or self-identified social worker, but with a background in sports. So those are my two passions.
Okay.
I've been in the child protection world locally at the Newton office for the last 17 years. And it was through there and an internal promotion that I was able to start and create and have the idea of Benny's Bodega. I went back to school and got my master's in social work and did all the licensing procedure nonsense. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have a small practice right there in Newton across the street from the Bodega. Try to make my life as convenient as possible.
Okay.
But that's a little about me. I played, my father was a basketball coach. Basketball and sports are another passion of mine. So we try to incorporate that into the community, into the Bodega a little bit. I don't know. What do you got, babe?
Well, I'm a supportive wife to all things Ben Davey, because his mind and his passion to help people sometimes just goes, which is actually how we landed with having the Bodega. I've worked in the fitness industry for 20 years. I have two wonderful children. My favorite job is being mom to Lily and Carter. And now the Bodega has grown so much that it's become very much full-time in our lives. Started as a part-time
passion and then quickly turned into a full-time responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's something that's great. You mentioned we've grown a lot, and we've only been in existence for 5 years, but we've grown a lot. And with that, a lot is a great thing. So don't get me wrong, but with that comes a lot of responsibility. So we have a lot on our plates. And today, for example, I told Heather that we had an appointment at 9, and she reminded me that I did not tell her that.
So let me ask you, what triggered you to do this exactly, Benny's Bodega? Like, was there an event or a person that you met or a situation that you were in that made you decide to pick this out of all things to do that was charitable and to give back?
That's such a great question.
I can't wait to hear his answer.
So
it wasn't a together thing. It was Benny. It was Benny kind of coming up with the stuff. So he's like he's the visionary.
Well, yes, but the vision doesn't come to fruition without the support of my wife.
Without the support. I agree 1,000,000%.
But
and that's really good that you said that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. I've learned it. But I will tell you this. I will say that literally since I've been I was a kid, I can always remember having a passion and having this desire and feeling to be around people and kids. I always wanted to help kids. And trust me, I'm not good at a lot of things, but I am good at forming relationships with people and kids, specifically adolescents. And I have a passion to help people. And excuse me, I lost my sister in 2004 in a car accident. And after taking a couple of years and getting back on my feet and making a lot of poor decisions, I started to professionally grow and just mature a little bit. I met my wife, which saved me in so many different ways. And I was able to take that growth and take that passion that I identified earlier and just kind of continuously help people. And when I got an internal promotion, my responsibility at my office was to formulate jobs in the community. And I was doing that, and I was getting a lot of stuff from the community for the caseworkers in the office to bring out to families. And I quickly turned my back cubicle into the original Benny's Bodega. And it was becoming so successful that I needed to make it an official nonprofit, because I worked for the state and government, and we were taking in so much stuff. I needed to make a separation. Right. And then quickly after I did that, the pandemic hit, and I was getting in even more stuff. And I turned, instead of my back cubicle, it was my house.
I
And
remember that. I think that's when I discovered you guys because
no
I saw
doubt.
one of Heather's posts on Facebook or
Yeah.
whatever, and it's like the bodega, and people are dropping stuff off on your front porch.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So that grew on Heather, and it grew old. Not I want to say
Yeah.
quick, but it's our house, right? And so you
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
can't
went from
constantly.
like our garage to our garage and our dining room, our garage, our dining
No
room, our
doubt.
basement, and I'm
Right.
like, Benjamin.
And
Like,
you had two small children at the
yeah,
Yep.
time too. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So it was a lot. And then, if I was being honest with you, we kind of went back. The mission was to help everybody. It was the pandemic, and everybody needed help. And then, as the world kind of got back to normal, we started to dwindle down. We started having conversations internally. You know, what does Benny's Bodega look like full time? If we're going to do this, what do we want to do? And we sat down and we had conversations, and we came up with what the mission is. I don't want to say exactly what the mission is right now because we've tweaked it over the last year or so. But I will say that we went from everybody to people on disability, senior citizens employed, and now we're specific for the Alice population, seniors and veterans, and that's what we're staying. So it was kind of this organic thing based on a passion, and then it grew into this organized, structured nonprofit where we have a target audience, a target mission, and we're really honed in on what we want to do and how we want to do it.
It's beautiful. And it's really awesome that you let it happen organically like that because I truly believe that that's what you're like. I'm a coach, right? And everybody's like, find your niche, or just like if you have a specialty, you social worker, whatever, right? Or
Yep.
physical training, and you have this specific target audience. But if you try to do it inauthentically, it doesn't really come out the way it's supposed to. So that's like really a beautiful thing. I loved that what you were doing really spoke to me, especially if it was like, I've been that mom at the grocery store,
No doubt.
trying to figure out how to feed my two children and buy diapers for $100 that week, and the
100%.
fact that you can help those people that are already working their asses off just to make ends meet, like really makes a big difference. They
We,
just need like a little bit just to bridge the gap,
100%.
and it really, yeah, is amazing.
me and Ben, I joke because working with your spouse is very difficult, but we do work, we're very different. So I feel like sometimes people see us and they're like, oh, these two people that want to help people. And that's like, we are like yin and yang. We are black and white. We are very different. I feel like as our relationship has grown longer, we've kind of mushed
Yes.
more from black and white to gray.
No doubt. No doubt.
But when this first started, I laughed because he always leaves this out. I don't know if he doesn't want me to be the mean wife or he just like this part comes out of his head. Ben never, I don't want to say he never stresses because everybody stresses, but he is very much like, it'll all be okay. It'll all work out. It always does. And I'm like, no, I need a chart and a plan and I need to know what's going to happen. And so my dad passed away when I was 12, leaving my mom, a single mom. She was 100% the Alice population. My dad was the breadwinner. And when he passed away, she went from being okay to not being okay very quickly.
Yeah.
And that was 1999. So things were very different. There was no GoFundMe. There was no, like, my dad didn't have life insurance. There was none of that stuff that everyone assumes when someone passes away. My mom had none of that. So something like the bodega would have helped her tremendously. But that also made me, throughout my whole life, someone who's extremely money conscious, and I stress and I overthink because what happens, right? Like I watched it firsthand. My dad was here one day and gone the next. So Ben, he always leaves this out, and I just laugh. The one day I check our credit card all the time, and I'm like, what did you spend $80 at the Halloween store for? And he's like, so there was this girl and she wanted to be the Grim Reaper for Halloween and her family didn't have money. And she had to have a sickle if she wanted to be the Grim Reaper. So I went to the Halloween store and I bought her all this stuff. And I'm like, you need to stop doing this. Like, we at the time were living paycheck to paycheck and we had 2 young kids and he went back to get his master's. Now there's student loans. Like, we are very real about what we have gone through and that we have lived it, which I think is also why we're so passionate about it. But I was like, you need to stop spending our bill money on other kids and how horrible, because I want to be able to do that, but we weren't in a position to do it. And then he called me once from Walmart. I need to buy a girl a pair of pajamas. I think she'll like Frozen. What size? I'm like, could you stop it, please, doing this? And he's like, finally, he was like, fine. Fine. Let's go the route of becoming a nonprofit. Let's do the work to make us official. But that too, it was thousands of dollars. It's attorney fees. It's CPA. It's filings. New Jersey doesn't make it easy.
I'm sure they don't.
At all. So
They don't make anything easy.
So he was like, all right, let's do it, but I have to take money out of our savings account. And I'm like, our savings account is like not much. You better put it back. And he's like, this is going to be good. We're going to do it and it's going to be good. And I just trusted him that he would do the work to make it okay. And now, you know, he always leaves that part out, like that fight in our kitchen that I'm like, could you stop going to the Halloween store and buying things for other children? I love that you have this huge heart, but gosh, I need you to stop it. And then when COVID hit, I lost my job. Like, I work in a fitness center. They were the first thing to close and the last thing to reopen. I didn't even know. I work for a mom and pop gym, so I didn't even know if they were going to reopen.
Survive, yeah.
It was, so for my planning brain, I'm like watching the TV. I was like, we're going to lose the house. I'm not going to have a job. He's like, we are not going to lose the house. We will be fine. Say, everything will be fine. And look, we didn't lose our house and so everything's fine.
I have so many things to say that. One, Heather, you and I have a very aligned story. My dad passed away in 2000. I was 18. My mom wasn't left with much, and it definitely was a struggle. But previously in childhood, we definitely depended on the church pantry for sure, for many times over and over again. And so I totally understand. And it's funny because I just need to stop saying this, but I am on my own. So I think I wear both those hats. So I have Benny's spiritual side where I'm like, it's all going to work out. And then still the other Laura is like, we need to plan what's happening, you know? So it's hard, but it is a beautiful balance. And that's the beautiful part about it. And I'm going to guess that Benny doesn't, or Ben, sorry, Ben.
No, you're good. Benny's fine.
that you probably don't, think of that argument in the exact same way. It was more grounding to you. And maybe it wasn't like, Heather, you were at like a point of frustration and Ben was probably just like, it was a realization, so maybe it wasn't as harsh as to him as you remember it. It's just like interesting. But I love that because that's really what happens all behind it. And you guys are both working your asses off and getting this going. And I had run into you a couple weeks ago, right? Because I brought in some stuff I had, from my clothes and all sorts of stuff, and just the going in there and all of your volunteers, and they're so welcoming, and everybody was just helpful. And I was only there for a few minutes, and
that's awesome.
You guys seem to have like a well-oiled machine and some good people on your side. So that's really awesome. I hope that alleviates some of that craziness, and it might add to it. I don't know, because then you're organizing volunteers and all of that stuff too.
I would say it definitely alleviates some of the stress.
Yeah. We're very lucky now.
Yeah, we have a team. I wouldn't say that we've always had a team of support. I will always say that, and the team of support has always uplifted us. But with any team comes team problems. Yeah. And I would be lying to you if I told you that everything's been roses and butterflies. And I would also tell you that last year at this time, we went through a huge transition with a couple of our people having a desire to do other things for various reasons. And maybe there was some disagreements there. And ultimately, some people decided to go another route, which at this time, it's our biggest event. And there was a lot going on last year. And I can tell you that the amount of people who stepped up and stepped in and the amount of support that we have, it's really unbelievable. And we wouldn't have the success and we wouldn't be helping as many people as we are and without them. And I think it's important to note that there's a lot of them, and they've been by our side, a lot of them since day one or early on, and they're genuinely great people. And like everybody has a great set of volunteers. Volunteers are just great people in general, right? So you're talking about the best of the best. but I will put our set of volunteers up with anybody. They're welcoming, they're empathetic, they're sympathetic, they're engaging, they communicate, they make fun of me. They're everything that you would
They
want.
want to be there.
You got it.
That's the big thing. Like
You
they're
said it better
doing
than
what
me.
they want to be doing. Because
Yeah.
if they didn't, they'd kind of be like
Eh,
how can I help you? You know, like not
got it.
welcoming. You know.
And I
You
think
got
we
it. Yep.
try not when I say we, I mean our whole team. When I talk, it's never about me and Ben. Like we started this, but it would have never grown to what it is without the team that we have behind us, and our team keeps growing. But I think a huge part of that too is our team grew organically. It's just like-minded people that listen to us and agree with our mission and agree with the way that we do things. And we're also, like, me and Ben are real young in the nonprofit world. Like most nonprofits, when you look at who's running them, and they're just a little bit older, which they're in different seasons of their lives, right? Mm-hmm. Normally retired people, or, you know, people that this is their full-time job. And to have a nonprofit like ours run by people younger, we just do things a little bit different. We try to make it fun,
for sure.
right? And like we are in a different season of our life. We're in a season of life like many of our shoppers, and young kids, and school functions, and sports, and work, and how are you going to juggle it all? But we also try to keep it light and fun. Like there's music playing in the bodega, and we joke and we swear and we get it. Like some people that might turn them off, and that's okay. But we feel like that has attracted the team that we have because we're just real people.
You're just being yourself.
Yeah.
Truly authentic. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what are the kind of like role, like responsibilities? Obviously, Ben is the visionary and dreamer, if you will. And what kind of roles do you play like within the nonprofit, and then like even your team too? Like what do you decide to hand off or trust somebody with? How do you figure that out?
So we have a general manager now, Shelly Ferguson. She is our general manager, and she operates the bodega. So she's in charge of, she's a paid employee. So she is in charge of our volunteers organization. She's in charge of pickups. She's in charge of the general management of the bodega. And what that does is that allows me to not have, yes. So now I can, 100%.
Like realistically, we have a lot of volunteers, and that's fantastic. But we need to make sure that we have volunteers on the days that we need. That's a lot of work. It's a lot. And who doesn't show up, or who has a flat tire, or who didn't know they were on Monday. Shelly deals with all of that, and we like never know that there's a problem if there is one.
That's beautiful. Even
she is like
business, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Like, 'cause that's what you strive for. Yes.
She only reaches out to us with things like that if she has to. And
that's amazing.
I don't think she really has had to. She figures it out. Like she's
great.
She's an angel. She just
has she been there from the beginning, or is she kind of like newer? Or
she's been a volunteer since very early on.
Oh, so amazing.
I met Shelly. Yeah, I met Shelly after was our cubicle to the garage, and then we had this small little attic space in Andover. And that's where I met Shelly. She came in one day and we started talking, and she literally, we had this other space and she was folding clothes.
It was a closet.
The fact that she stayed after that is a testament to her, trust me.
Our first location was in Andover. It was a 3rd floor walk-up attic. No heat, no air. You'd sweat, you'd freeze.
I'm pretty sure there was a lot of mice.
we had a closet where the clothes were. I actually have to take this phone call, because my husband double booked me. But I'll do that.
That's okay. Yes. So besides Shelly, like who else do you have on your team, like on a normal basis? You don't have to, you can generalize if you have different roles or whatever.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So I do, I got my hand in everything. I get a little bit of everything. I do the pickups. I do a little bit, I do presentations. I work on getting food suppliers in the back. I do talk to Shelly. Shelly meets with me once a week, and we go over everything. So I got my hand in everything. Heather is our social media person, and she is our number one person who engages the community for donations.
Okay.
So she does that, and those two of themselves are two of our most important jobs. Mm-hmm. And she kind of stays in her lane and does those things because it takes up so much of her time. Anybody who works in social media knows the posts, the pictures, all the things that you
It's
have to
time
do to
consuming.
stay in
Yeah.
line with the algorithm and all the things. So she does that. And then on top of that, she's always soliciting for donations. Everything that the bodega generates is generated from community support and donations. We don't have any government funding. We don't have any annual $150,000 grants or anything. So everything that we generate generates initially basically from Heather. And so she does those things. I got my hand in everything. And then we have a team of volunteers underneath Shelly who manage the bodega, who do food drives, who are at our events, who accompany me to accept awards. What else? They have a meeting, I think tomorrow. We call them leaders, not supervisors, they're leaders. These are
Okay.
people who manage the bodega on a daily basis, and they follow their lead on the day that the bodega is open. So we have a leaders meeting, in that they attend, and we meeting of the minds basically, and we make sure everything is going well and what's working, what's not working. We have people who manage our supplies, in that we're very organized. We know what's coming in and we know what's going out now. So we have an idea of what we need on a given month. Let's see. I mean, I could probably go on forever, but I think that's genuinely it. We have a board of trustees that meets every other month. So we're meeting 6 times a month. We have our financial person through McIntyre CPAs over in Sparta.
Mm-hmm.
So we have somebody who does our QuickBooks, and we get annual monthly reports. So that is something that we're dealing with constantly, our financials, because they have to be in line. And everybody on our team has to be able to have access to them, so they know what's coming in and what's going out and what we need nowadays to operate the bodega. So there's those conversations. So it went from this attic space bodega serving 20 people a month, to serving 560, 1,500 people a month, to having meetings, to having board meetings, to having financials, accountants, lawyers, all the things. And it really has become a full-time passion and a full-time responsibility. So it's great. It really is, but it's a lot.
Yeah. So like that's pretty impressive. I wanted to interrupt you like 4 times because I'm
Please.
thinking about this. You went, well, I shouldn't. I'm trying to, you went from this little thing to this, like, how was that growing? Because it really is a short amount of time to go
Yeah.
from, you're collecting donations or whatever to having all of these formalities. Like, was that a hard, like, learning process? Because you're like, oh shit, I really need to file this thing because otherwise I'm not really legitimate. Like, how, I mean, especially being a nonprofit, there's so much red tape, I have to
Yep.
imagine, and rules to follow and
Yep.
things like that. So like, was that frustrating sometimes as I'm growing and I'm like, oh, this is another thing I have to learn, it was kind of like, I just want to do the thing.
No doubt.
Right?
You said it best. At the end of the day, I just want to help people.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of red tape now that we've grown so big, and we are helping so many people. So there's a lot more to it now. And it does stink some days. I'm not going to lie to you, right? There are some days where you just shake your head, or you make a mistake and you're like, Jesus, I didn't know that. I didn't know I
It's
had
like
to
a
do that.
domino effect, right? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But you try to learn and you try to give yourself grace. Like, listen, I didn't know nothing about running and organizing a nonprofit 6 years ago. You know what I mean? And from where that I was then to where I am now is I feel like I've grown a lot and I know a lot more. But that didn't come without failures, and that didn't come without
Right.
mistakes. And I feel like I've learned from those failures and mistakes. And what you learn too is that when you make mistakes or you have failures, and people go away or people then support you, you find out who's really on board with you. And that's one of the great thing about failing or making mistakes. You find out who genuinely is on board and who's genuine in their likeness for you and the mission. And that's the great thing about making a mistake. But yeah, I wouldn't say I've made a lot of them, but on the flip side of that, we've also made a lot of good choices, and we've also made a lot of right choices, and we've met a lot of good people, and we allowed people to help us where we've needed help. And it's been this learning experience, but it's been great because we're having success, and ultimately we're doing what we set out to do, is help people. That doesn't come without frustration and headaches some days, but it comes with everything, right?
Well, they call it, I guess in business they'll call it like failing forward, right? So you make a mistake and You learn from that and then
No
you do
doubt.
better, right? And we fail
100%.
forward more than not, honestly, because that's how we grow and we get to the next step. And it's like it's interesting. So I'm curious, how do you involve the kids in the whole thing? Because I'm sure they're like right there with you. I have to
Yeah.
imagine.
So
Yeah.
that was one of our things that we did is we wanted to incorporate our kids because we when we started this they were younger. It was 5 years ago. Their Carter is 9 and Lily is 11. So 5 years ago, right? Do the math. So they were young when we started.
Yeah.
But we always wanted to incorporate them. It's important for us to teach our kids empathy, to teach them how lucky and fortunate they are to have the circumstances that they do. You know, not everybody is as fortunate, and that doesn't, and that's okay. But we're going to treat everybody respectfully, and we're going to treat everybody with empathy, and we're going to not judge. We're going to do our best to try to not judge people. And the only way, well, one of the ways to do that is to teach them about giving back. So when I go do the Wegmans and I do food pickups, my daughter will come with me all the time, and we'll sit and we'll talk, about school, and we'll talk about boys, and we'll talk about girls, and we'll talk about all the things. And it's a way for us, for me and her, to. I'm really, really passionate about having positive relationships with my kids. So it's a way for me to have a good relationship with my daughter, with my son, and then on top of that, teach them what I identified earlier. Teach them about respect and empathy and not judging people. So it's this awesome thing. They get to learn the benefit of volunteering and giving back and engaging, meeting nice people. But I also get the benefit of increasing and improving my relationship with them and spending time with them. It's very important to me that I help people and I do what I'm set that I was put on this earth to do. But it's also very, very important to me that I'm a good father and that I'm there and involved and present. So it's vital to me that I do incorporate the two, because the bodega takes so much time that if I didn't incorporate them, they would feel left out. And I obviously don't want that. I want them to learn all the things. But again, most important to me, I want them to be close and involved with me. So they're involved all the time. They come to the bodega all the time. They stock shelves. They go through clothes. They stock food. They do all the things. Sometimes they sit in the bodega while we have meetings and they read, or they fool around, or they do whatever. But they're a big part of my life and our life together, and they're a big part of the bodega. So it's important to us that they're involved.
That's amazing. You're both setting a really good example, because that's what we have to do as parents, right? Like they're
100%.
watching you. They are. And it doesn't matter how old they are. They're
They're,
watching you.
they're watching.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're setting the example. What about at home? Do they have like chores or responsibilities that they have to take
100%.
care of at home?
Yeah,
Nice. I love
100%.
it.
Accountability and responsibility is a part of life. And
Yeah, well, it's funny because in this day and age, there are so many people that I encounter that their kids don't have chores. And then as they grow, I went to a birthday party not that long ago, and I mentioned how I gave all I have a couple teenagers and then I have a 9-year-old.
yeah,
And I was like, yeah, I gave them chores or whatever. And they were like, how did you do that? I'm like, I just told them they had to do,
no
they had to
doubt.
do this or whatever. And she's like, oh, my kid like laughs at me. And I was kind of like, well, you just gotta you gotta do it. I don't, it's strange because, I'm a little older than you guys, but we kind of grew up in the same decade, more or less.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
we always had jobs that we had to
Always.
do. Like
Yep.
mom and dad were at work and we were expected, to whatever. I think we each haven't had a night to make dinner even,
Yeah,
just
100%.
because it was a family of 6 and we all work together. And if, we have to, this is how we have to do it. So that's cool. So what kind of jobs do you give your kids at their ages now? Like what are they responsible for?
I'm laughing because I can remember as a kid, me and my brother, we had a wood burning stove, and we would,
We did
um,
too.
right. So my
Yeah.
dad would chop
Haul the wood.
yep.
Yep.
So
When
I'm
it was
laughing.
snowing, we put it on a sled and moved it around the house and
No,
brought it in.
no.
Yep. That's what we had to do.
See, I knew I liked you, right? So, wood. So I do wood. I will. I won't stack wood, and I'll have
Okay.
my kids bring in wood and
Okay.
stack wood and do little things like that. They will. We have 2 dogs, so they'll clean up dog poo in the yard. They will. Carter, like I had some rocks to move yesterday. He was outside helping me move some rocks as much as he can. He's 9. But it's little things that they do, and it's nothing major. And they don't, like Lily now is folding clothes because she doesn't want to do outside work. But we
Well,
make
we
her
all
do a
have our
little.
forte, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's fine, but there's the reward for doing chores in our house is just that, the reward of accomplishing something, being a part of something, being a part of our team. We're a family, we're a team, we all have responsibilities. Listen, if it's not major, but you should have something that you're doing, and it's a non-negotiable. Like, we do all this stuff as a family for you guys, and you have this lovely existence, and in response to that, your responsibility is to do these little things around the house to help our team grow and improve. And that's just the way it is, and there is no money given. My daughter asks me all the time,
Yep.
when am I getting the allowance? And I'm like, it's not coming.
Sorry, that's not how it works here. I actually, from the time they were little, I would reward my kids like if they did their things, and I'm not like frightfully organized, I would say. Like, I'm a pretty, we all I have a lot of balls in the air. We have to keep the balance going.
No
But when they
doubt,
were
yeah.
little, I would reward them with movie night on Friday night. So then, because I didn't have to do this, I'm not taking the time
That's
to do
awesome.
that. And now, as they've gotten older, I kind of say the same thing. I'm like, well, we're a team. My 9-year-old has the toughest time with chores. It's the baby, and I think that's part of
No
the
doubt.
problem. And she's like, they've been doing their laundry now for a couple years, which is helpful as a single mom, obviously,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
you're teaching them life skills, period. So like when they
Agreed.
get older and they have friends that they're like, how do I do this? And your kids are going to be, like, oh, well, just here, give it to me. This is, and how did you not know how to do that?
Right.
It's
100%. Yep.
important, and
Yeah.
I agree. I don't give my kids allowance either, but if we're out, like they don't get stuff all the time just because, but if they're, if we're out, I'm like, they are the most helpful children. Um, that I don't mind getting them something because you've done a great job, and
Job.
we're a
Yes.
team, and yeah,
I agree with
absolutely.
that. We're very generous too in that regard, but it's in response to their behavior. It's not
Yeah.
just cause. It's because you're doing what you're asked. You're handling your business and your responsibility, and there is a reward to that. Not every day, but there is. After soccer practice, you want to stop off and grab a pliable or an ice cream.
Hmm.
Let's do that because you've earned it. You worked your ass off today, and that's okay. I mean, that's great. And here's your reward for that. Not every day, but it is just a positive reinforcement for them that they're doing the right thing and that I'm proud of them and I love them. And I hope that they see that. And, I say that to them all the time, but it's also nice as a kid to get an ice cream or to get treated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Then it makes you feel special, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I'm curious because I usually always ask business owners this, and I'd be curious what Heather's answer is too, but I don't know how long she is until she gets back. But what is your morning routine like as a business owner? Obviously, you're doing all the things. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a passionate turn of mine that I've taken for myself recently. And I'm always curious because the more successful people sort of have this in common. So, what is your morning routine like?
So I'm so glad that you asked, and I'm so glad that you said what you said because I am somebody that has really adapted and adopted a real positive morning routine.
Yep.
And I found out it's similar in listening to people and doing research on my own what successful people do. Morning routines are a huge part of that.
Vital.
And so I've done like you. I've really devoted myself to developing a positive morning routine, and I enjoy putting on headphones and working out. So I Heather works at a gym, so I'm fortunate to be able to go to the gym and lift weights. So I do that. I can't stand running or any form of cardio,
Okay.
but I've gotten up and I've really, so basically what I'm getting at is I get up every morning and I exercise. I do my emails for the bodega for the day. Most importantly, though, now my morning routine consists of hanging with my kids.
Okay.
And they get up, they set their alarms, they're freaking nuts. But most of the times they're up and they set their alarms by 6:37.
Okay.
Sometimes we go outside and we shoot hoops or we play soccer. Sometimes we just hang and we watch TV. Sometimes, most of the time, I'll make them breakfast and we'll just hang before school. Sometimes we do. There's like always like their teachers give them work throughout the week, so we'll do some math work. So my morning routine consists of exercise, making sure my emails are at least the emails that I have to catch up on for the bodega are sent out. Any emails or contacts I need to make for my counseling business are done in the morning, and then I spend 45 minutes to an hour with my kids to before they go to school, and then I go to work.
Isn't that funny? It's like we have this whole day before our day begins. I
No
actually just
doubt.
started, I'm almost through it. I can't remember the name of the author, but it's called Miracle Mornings. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
I think it's El Halrod or something like that. But his energy, I'm actually listening to it on audio while I'm on the treadmill in the morning,
That's
which
awesome.
would be your absolute worst thing.
Torture.
But
Yeah.
but it's really interesting, and he has this whole acronym that he created for it. And it's called Savers. Have you heard of this?
No.
So it's and it, I think I just Googled it this morning because I was telling somebody else about it, but it's basically like the acronym for all of the steps, putting all of the things together that you should do in your morning routine. What time do you wake up in the morning?
I'm up by 6:37.
Okay. All right. So that's not so bad.
Yeah.
I started, actually, I shouldn't say it like that because that's notable. That's good. But it's silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and what's the last one? Scribing. So it's this whole thing that, and basically what he said is that he thought he was down on his luck or whatever. And if you're an audiobook guy, listen to it.
Okay.
And well, and if you're not, I don't know if you ever have time to read, but so if he was really down on his luck and he thought, like, what if I encompass all of these things together, and it's really kind of a beautiful practice, and it doesn't have to take you like 2 hours. It sounds
No.
like a
Yeah.
lot, but it doesn't, right? And we do these things in our own time. But I found that it's really changed the way that I feel. I'm big on personal growth. Obviously, that's my whole story. That's how
No
I came
doubt.
about.
Yeah.
But as business owners, as entrepreneurs, because that's nothing short of what you are, Ben, honestly, because you
Thank you.
have this vision and you
Yeah.
keep growing and it's amazing. And when you don't pour into yourself and work on yourself, you just remain stagnant. And that, I
Couldn't
think,
agree more.
you can probably, attribute your mornings to some of that. That personal development is really
100%.
important. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm big on self improvement too. And you said one of the ones in the saviors was affirmations. I'm
Yes.
huge on affirmations and positive affirmations. I went through a real downtime in my 20s, and it took me a long time to kind of kick it and get out of it. And I can remember being in therapy myself, which is probably the reason why I'm a therapist. And I can remember my therapist telling me, "Hey Ben, listen, bad things happen." And it sounds so bad things happen to good people every single day is what he told me. And it sounds so simple and generic, but for whatever reason, that just was kind of like, huh. And that sentence and that engagement in therapy kind of switched. And it's since then I've been on this kind of road to self improvement and developing and trying to be a better version of myself. So I'm big on, and he taught me the importance of positive affirmations. And sometimes I'm in the car and I just remind myself and I say stuff out loud, or I'm brushing my teeth and I say stuff as I'm looking stuff in the mirror. I'm real big on positive affirmations, but I don't know. I hold that to a morning thing. I believe in the powerfulness of our thoughts, and I think thoughts can be extremely
Absolutely.
powerful. So when I
Yeah.
might find myself being negative or falling into this, oh man, poor me type of attitude and trap, that's when I kind of use the affirmations and I remind myself of the things that I have and the things that we're doing and accomplishment, and I'm cognizant of my negative thoughts. So affirmations are a huge part of my life.
Yeah. I agree. Your mindset is everything. It's
100%.
whether you feel good or not, basically,
Couldn't
right?
agree
Because
more.
your
Yep.
mental health is so connected to your body and the way that we carry ourselves through the day.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite affirmation that you want to share?
So I give myself grace, and I tend to be very hard on myself.
Hmm.
So I just simply say, "You're okay. You're okay." Stop being hard on yourself, and I remind myself that I'm fine and that I'm okay. And then usually after I say that I'm okay, I take a nice deep breath and I kind of just let it out. And I know and these are things I talk about in therapy with my clients. And sometimes people will look at you and they're very simple things, but sometimes the simple things, and at least I find sometimes the simple things are the best things. So I just remind myself that I'm okay, and I take a breath, and I can just kind of continuously do it. And I say, "You're
Yeah.
okay. You're
Yeah.
okay. You're okay."
That's a beautiful thing. So when in that hard time, one of the things I think when it kind of finally clicked for me was that, you know, you said like bad things happen to good people all the time, or it's
Yep.
like sometimes as a mom, I've got 3 kids, I'm, you know, building a business, I'm doing, you know, all the things
All the
also.
things.
And
Yeah.
it's like, if I could just get through one fucking week without something happening,
Happening.
like that would be so freaking cool, you know?
Amen.
And and I can laugh about it now, but there were definitely times that I was just like, I just want to fold, man. This is
No
like
doubt.
this is like I just want to sit here and cry and like let it out. And but you know, sometimes you have to take a minute, figure, you know, like simmer in it for a second, and then it's kind of like, you know, when you're out of breath when you're running, since you keep running, and you're like, okay, so let's suck it up, let's keep going, you know. And it's hard because obviously you do have Heather as your partner.
Yep.
She's there for you to push you and motivate you, but really, you know, that comes from inside, like without a
100%.
doubt. There's
Yep.
no one that's going to fix it for you. And that
Nope.
was one phrase that I hated to hear all the time. No one's going to save you. And sometimes it's easier to sit in that mode, but it's really not, because once you start moving and accomplishing things, that feels better than obviously than sitting there going, what am I going to do? What am I going to
Yeah.
do? You
I
know,
could not
rather
agree
than
more.
just like letting it happen. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, and you said it a hell of a lot better than I can say it. So yeah,
Oh,
I
thanks.
agree. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think it's an important part. Yeah. I'm with you.
Awesome. So I'm really glad that you guys were able to join me. This was really fun. We'll have to do it again, honestly. It was a great
Well, looking forward to
conversation.
it. I listen.
Yeah.
If you want to go grab a drink, we can grab something. We'll go all sit down and talk. Man, talking to you is
Yeah.
easy. You're very good at your job. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you. I appreciate that. So, do you have any special events or anything that you want to mention, and then also let people know like where they can find you guys? Like what the, even right down to the bodega, your website, all of it.
So our website is www.bennysbodega.com. You'll find all our information on there. Heather has done a great job of creating and managing the website. So there's tons of pictures, there's testimonials, there's information about us, our mission, things that you need to enter the bodega, all the things, how to donate, what to donate, all
For
the things are on the
volunteers, all of
website.
that.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we are very active on our social media pages, on our Instagram and Facebook page. Benny's Bodega. If you just search Benny's Bodega on Facebook, and then you can click the follow button, you can follow us. We're getting close. We have almost 5,000 followers, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
We're on Instagram too. Our Instagram account is not as active as our Facebook account because all of us old people are on Facebook.
That's my demographic too. It's okay.
No doubt.
I'm there, but
Screw all those young people anyway on Instagram.
yeah, whatever.
But we're on LinkedIn too, Benny's Bodega. I have Benjamin Davey on LinkedIn. Events. We have a huge Tricky Trade coming up the 27th at the Richards Building, but that event actually sold out. And It sold out. We accept 475 people, and it actually sold out in 33 minutes.
Fucking
So,
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
fucking
awesome.
amazing is right.
Yeah.
So we're very thankful for that. But that's pretty cool. We are going to be announcing a huge raffle coming up on the 1st of October. So
Okay.
please look out for that. It's going to be an opportunity to win a pretty amazing prize. We're going to be giving that prize away Black Friday, so the day after Thanksgiving, in a little ceremony, and it's a $25,000 prize. It's not cash or the money, but it's an actual item, and it's a value of $25,000. And a lucky winner, if you buy a raffle ticket, of course, will be able to walk away or drive away with this particular gift. So,
nice.
yeah, we're looking forward to that. That's, and I will say just one thing: our future is. What we're trying to do in the future is secure a building. So when I talk about that raffle we have coming up in our major event, we are working our tails off, and we're trying to generate as much money as we can because we need a permanent location, we need a home base, and we need a building. So that's what we're fundraising for, a building.
Okay, that's a great mission.
Thank you.
Okay, so those are your events. And yeah, I guess that's it then, right? You mentioned all the things. Okay,
all the
great.
things. And I'm sorry Heather didn't come back.
That is okay. Listen,
that's
is
our life though.
And yeah, that's a good example. And my dog walking through, yes.
I'll take the hit on that too because I did double book her, and she was like, "Why would you do that?" And I'm like, Well, not for nothing, you're the organized one, so you should have told me you were double booked before I made it.
That's pretty funny. Thank you so much for
No, thank
joining
you.
me. Thank you everyone for listening. Wherever you're listening, please hit subscribe and send a like. Please share it with a friend if you can. Read the blog at myinnerstruggle.com and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I will see you